Hi, this is Freddy.
And this is Marky.
Welcome to Gaming Input. Today we're gonna start something new, like a discussion. This is many of you asked us before to start doing something like that, and today we feel it's a good time to discuss it because we have a new subscription. There's a lot of discussion about it, and it really affect directly how we're gonna uh, buy certain games or not. And we feel this is a good start for us. So let's get started. Marky, can you give us some background about PlayStation Plus and what changes are happening?
Yes, so apparently PlayStation Plus is going to be expanding, and by that we're going to be meaning absorbing PlayStation Now, the service that allows you to stream current and previous generation titles to you. So, without to put it as simply as possible, this is going to be our competitor to the Xbox Game Pass on the Sony side. There's going to be actually a few tiers as opposed to the Game Pass this time. Without going into too much, because there's obviously subscription services for monthly, quarterly, yearly. We're always going to be advertising the yearly to you because that's your best value as opposed to doing it month by month. So, and we will be putting up, of course, a graphic available so that you guys can stay in tune. But there's going to be 3 tiers. You got your PlayStation Plus Essential here, and this one's going to be pretty simple. This is your PlayStation Plus that you are available now. Your 2 free games, your online access, your deals and cloud storage. You get all that there, that's fine. Where it's going to change is in the other tiers, which is PlayStation Plus Extra, which is this guy hanging around yearly at around $99.99. And with this is when things are starting to get interesting. In addition to the benefits that you have for PlayStation Plus, they're going to be giving you a library of about 400, and of course it's going to be changing. We don't know which ones. PS4 and PS5 games to access. This tier will allow you to download them for play. As long as you have an active subscription, you'll be able to take advantage of that benefit. And then the creme de la creme one, the final tier, is our PlayStation Plus Premium. And buckle up, because here we go, a yearly rate of about $119.99. Now, not so different compared to the premium one, but when you're looking at it in total, that's what you're getting. And right here is probably going to be the biggest contested point for a lot of people. Those benefits that you had earlier, they're there to PlayStation Plus, PS4, and PS5 games. It's going to be expanded even further. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and PSP of all libraries are going to now be available for you to download with an asterisk. We're going to be covering some points, and I'll let you know what that asterisk is about. But here's our big one that's probably going to be the point of contention. $120 and you're going to be basically getting your previous library access. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. So what we're going to kind of do is we're going to go point by point. We're going to take a look at some things that interested us because we know it's a lot to spend on these tiers and promotions. And you guys should probably deserve to know what's available in these so that you can make the best choice for when this comes out in a few months.
That was a great intro, Marky. There's a lot to discuss here, but I feel like let's take it in a chronological order and let's see how things were going. So I'm gonna go back to May 2019 in particular. Microsoft already launched a while back a Game Pass. The number of subscribers for Xbox were continuously increasing. People starting to be more interested with Game Pass, more subscriptions, and it's starting to make more money. We don't know exactly how much they were making, but we know even though they weren't selling as many consoles, but with the subscription services, they're making a lot of money. Sony were noticing this, and back in May 2019, there was an announcement a lot of people, I think, missed, but it was a big one, and it started to give us a clue of what's going on. Microsoft and Sony announced a strategic partnership. And I'm gonna just a quote from that meeting. Sony executive vice president said that Sony will develop a very strong partnership with Microsoft in the mid to the long term. Now, Microsoft owns the servers, the cloud services. They have the technology, they have the strategy, they have the budget. Sony is not as big as Microsoft, and very shockingly, 2 competitors, they're actually having a partnership. Sony really asking Xbox or Microsoft for help to allow Sony to have some servers in the cloud, in the cloud platform. And this gave us the sense that Sony is planning to start some clouding service, some sort of streaming, They started with Game Pass, not Game Pass, sorry. For Sony, it was PlayStation Now. They started having some difficulties because they were relying on streaming, and not everybody got good internet connection. Until recently, Sony started allowing people to download games, which was straightforward. I don't know, Marky, did you ever use PlayStation Now?
Not too much, no. Like you were saying, it does rely on a very strict top of the line internet connection in order to get it. I sadly don't really have access to that. So while the concept was great, it, of course, was kind of inhibited by the limitations that was provided by.
Exactly. This is exactly how I felt about it. And that's why I never joined PlayStation Now. And as somebody who owned both Xbox and PlayStation, I already have subscription to Game Pass, so I didn't feel it was necessary for me to join PlayStation Now on top of that. It's either or, and Game Pass was a really good value and still a good value. In fact, it's getting better. Now Game Pass give you access to all EA games. Microsoft keep buying more studios that keep adding the library that gonna give you a lot of access to games like Dooms and other and now they recently bought Activision, so we don't know if Call of Duty is gonna become exclusive or not. So there's definitely a big gap, even though Sony got the big triple A games that were exclusive for PlayStation. Game Pass and Xbox played a different game that was showing over time that they're winning by allowing people just paying subscription service and not having to buy a lot of games individually.
Yeah, I know that when it came to people exploring what Microsoft did, essentially what I felt was Microsoft was playing catch up, because both, even on Nintendo side and Sony side, they have a giant library of and a long history involving gaming, whereas Xbox kind of really didn't. It came out obviously with your Halo, your Gears of War, but when it came to building a library of exclusives, they were a little slow to the take. Hence their purchasing of all these studios, basically kind of a de facto route of I'm going to buy my exclusives as opposed to make them. Obviously a lot more legalese and stuff in between, but basically what's happening is that Xbox, the one that has the least amount of history and backstory when it comes to these games, is, funny enough, the best option when it comes to trying to play your retro content or backlog data. That's what made Game Pass, I feel, pretty popular. Having access to all generations of those games, not all the games, but a decent amount, and it keeps getting bigger, is kind of what they realized. As those subscriptions kept growing, as Freddie was saying, there's a countless number of people who are just keeping that subscription going, and it now has proven that there's systems made like the Series S and the all digital that are built just to support Game Pass, and that's a big sign. And so, like any company, they're not going to ignore that pile of money that they could potentially be making themselves, and so they're capitalizing on it. But a lot of the points that are in this, there's a lot of asterisks to point out. And one of the biggest things is, not biggest, but it depends on what you're looking for. They did state, when it comes to this service being supported, unlike what Game Pass does with a lot of its exclusive titles being accessible day one. You can pick it up right on the Game Pass. Halo Infinite, Psychonauts 2, all those followed that route. Sony made it a point to say that from the future releases, and they were specifically stating things like God of War Ragnarok and those upcoming Insomniac Spider-Man titles, that they will not be available day one on this service. So there's still, my opinion, a little bit of hesitancy when it comes to fully embracing it. Of course, we're going to see as this goes. So, Freddie, one thing I wanted to kind of ask you about was, obviously with this news being the way it is, was there anything in particular about the price that stood out to you? Does it seem like something that would be fair to jump on? Or is it something that would depend on, what type of play you normally do, being both an owner of both generations?
Yeah, you're bringing a great point. Honestly, I feel very neutral about the Sony announcement with this all tiers. Part of me is excited to see access to PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 games and trials, PSP. And maybe I feel like neutral. There is some positivity about it, but at the same time, not having, as you mentioned, day one games on part of the service is a really a downside. Like we saw on Xbox, like Forza Horizon Day One, Halo Infinite, MLB The Show, Flight Simulator, all great games that are worth like $60 were on day one available to you to download and play. You're good to go if you remember. Sony, as you mentioned, is very hesitant to do this step. They want to be more conservative. They don't want to. They say it doesn't make sense from a business perspective to put the game on day one free for everybody, which kind of makes sense. But there is some games that they confirmed, at least that we know. Death Stranding, God of War, Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, the original one, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Returnal, and Mortal Kombat 11. Now, from the way I do it as a gamer, as you guys know, I like to save money when I play game. I like to play a lot of games, but I don't want to pay a lot of money. So I feel like games that are maybe gonna take me more than 20 to 30 hours, I don't want to play that on a subscription service. I feel it's a lot cheaper to buy just the game and keep it. For example, God of War, a great game. Maybe it's gonna take you maybe 15, 20 hours to finish. We've seen it a lot of times going on sale for $10. Is it worth it to pay this like a good chunk of these hours over the cloud service, or just have the game and play it at your own pace and maybe focus on more games that you can play on the cloud, and you're not gonna maybe pay the disc like to keep. You're gonna just play it once to experience what it is and then move on. And this happened a lot. This is what the games that I choose from Game Pass, games that are maybe 8 hours long, 7 hours long, third party indie games, games that I don't think about I'm gonna buy in particular, but I will be considering trying since it's for free. And that's how I use Game Pass. Like I don't see myself playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, maybe a game that gonna take you 40, 50 hours to finish on a cloud service. That would mean I'm spending the entire month playing one game, and I would rather just pay the $20 and keep the game and focus on other smaller games. I don't know how you do it, Marky.
I was gonna kind of piggyback off that a little bit. What I've done when it comes to, because I've a little bit about me, I've been slowly transitioning since the start of the pandemic to go from physical to a little bit more digital, because I do enjoy the physical media side of a lot of that. And one thing that I found, and this kind of reflects off what you would decide to do with this service, unless you guys have access to retro systems at the ready and want to boot them up, but I don't think anybody's really jumping on the PlayStation Classic right now. So I'm gonna assume we don't have access to that. If you're big on retro gaming, go for it. But one thing that I've looked at when it comes to these modern titles, and I look at it kind of similar in that way, if it's a game that needs to be consistently revisited, a multiplayer title, one that involves a lot of updates, one that's built off the season pass maybe for an extended amount of time, then I'm going to say go digital on that in regards to like keeping the longevity of your game going. You'd be surprised, for me, how the convenience of not having to put in a disc is fantastic for a game that you just need to boot up for a new update or play a couple rounds. Games like your Spider-Man, your Miles Morales, your God of War, like he's saying, 15, 20 hours, or maybe a little bit more if you're big on completionist stuff. The one and done games, I like keeping physical, mostly just because, you know, like you said, you're one and done. You take it out and you're good. This all depends on your play style, though. If you're the person who goes God of War but can only play on the weekends, then you know what, this might take you about a month.
Exactly.
In which case your subscription, in this case, $120 a year if you're going fancy, is purely based on the fact of whether you can make the most out of your time for that. And so when it comes down to it, I think there's been a lot of talk, at least from what we've been seeing, it's always been about the premium tier, the 121, which, you know, we'll go into those, of course, the retro aspect. But in regards to this, I would say for a lot of people to keep an eye on that middle tier. That middle tier giving you access to PS4 and 5 games from the get-go, I'd say would be a sound enough investment to go on. Because even if you're the person who has one game every 3 months, you might be overwhelmed or paralyzed by choice if you go for the big one and have access to not just that, but hundreds, thousands, if you want to include the previous generation, to have access to. And then that pressure, of course, being I spent $120 a year on this. I need to work.
Make the most out of it.
And now, for some people, you suddenly turn gaming into a chore. You need to, because you're spending $120, so you got to play Tekken 1 on PS1. Everyone's got to do that. So I would say keep an eye on the middle tier if you're a person who just enjoys kind of going through that one and done games. Your Maddens, your Call of Duties, you know what I mean, the yearly releases, the long updated ones, those, like Freddie would probably say, we mention them on sale a lot here. You grab them on sale, you don't need to worry about it again. A lot of the games do free updates, free content drops, and you're good to go. And so maybe these tiers might not be more your forte. So take a look at these, because you're going to be seeing with this, in addition to the company of Sony changing, this service, once it finally merges, is going to actually change a lot about what you do for your PlayStation gaming habits. So keep an eye out. The one bummer about all this is that aside from those titles that Freddie mentioned, we don't have really a full list of what's available. We don't know if all of PlayStation Now is moving over and then some from there, or if this is going to be more of a curated list. They are saying hundreds, but when it comes down to it, there's hundreds of any game you can pick. You can get hundreds from RPGs alone. So when it comes to that, it's a tough one there, because you don't know what's available. If you are more of a search the web, search the library to see what's available to play that weekend, sure, a lot of PlayStation 1 and 2 games can be one and done very quickly. So when it comes to that, I wanted to kind of bring up a point that I think caused the most contention when it came to the retro side. And Freddie, obviously your streaming service was different from mine. The one asterisk that I mentioned earlier when it came to that tier, the PS3 access titles, those are not going to be available for download. And I'll throw in my bit in the beginning before I throw it over to Freddie. But there's only streaming for PlayStation 3 titles specifically, meaning it's essentially what PlayStation Now was, PS3 Hub. You stream all your games, and that's completely dependent on your internet connection. Now, there's a million things that go around the technical hubbub, the logistical hubbub. There's a lot of things. The joke that I've been seeing the most is that, even when it comes to emulation on PCs, PS3 emulation is really difficult because of the hardware that's available. And it feels like Sony's saying the same thing. They're like, man, the PS3 is just tough to work with. And everyone's like, you guys made the system. Everyone's like, well, can't you just flip a switch and allow you to download PS3 games? Sadly, it doesn't work that way anymore. So what I wanted to kind of throw to Freddie, and then of course to you guys as we discuss this, is when it comes to PS3 titles, I mean, hardcore PS3 people will have their decision to make. But how do you feel about the fact that there's an entire generation that's down to just streaming, and we're back at square one when it comes to that being your internet connection being your deciding factor if you're going to enjoy it or not?
Exactly. A lot of countries don't have that good speed of internet.
True.
Even on Game Pass, they try to play streaming, and I downloaded a couple games. I tried it, and the graphics, maybe 720p. It was almost unplayable for me, just by the way it looks. I don't want to continue trying. So imagine in other countries how it is. So a lot to be determined, because we don't know the full list of games. And also for PlayStation 3, I feel it's cheaper. Like a lot of PS3 games are available, like maybe go to GameStop. They're very cheap, $5, $7. Maybe you don't need a subscription service if you're looking for particular games to play from PlayStation 3 era. Just buy them. They might be very cheap. So that would be like somebody who like to save money. I feel like it's more worth it to just pay maybe $20 and get those 4 games that you like the most on PlayStation 3. Just play them on PlayStation 3, maybe the actual system. Like I bought mine off the local market for $40. Pretty much almost brand new. It comes with a controller and everything. And I feel like I'm set. I don't need the subscription service for this. I bought the most 20 games that I like the most for PlayStation 3 and I have them in my library, and I'm good to go.
So we'll use this opportunity to say, we'll use this opportunity to say, in case the people who missed it last year, the PlayStation Store on the PS3 is still available to get what you need. If you need to get a hold of a PS3, go for it that way too.
Yeah, and also before we forget, I think the service is gonna start in June, correct? Is
Yeah,
that correct? Yeah.
I
So we
believe
still
so.
have
Yeah,
time
late June.
to see what's gonna happen. And also another point, if you guys are watching our channel, we got PlayStation Plus on a lower than $60 deals. So that might be another factor because 120 that's the theoretical price, but we always find coupons and ways to bring the price down. I almost never paid $60 for PlayStation Plus. I always pay maybe around $45. So I assume in premium and maybe even the mid tier, we can still do a bargain on the price and bring it down. But it all comes down to what library of games we will be getting, which is still a mystery. And I don't know, like I feel neutral about it. I feel Game Pass with Xbox, I feel they're more, they can handle budget wise to put day one games. There's still, we don't know about PlayStation, so I'm gonna stay neutral about it. I'll be watching what's happening, and then I will come to a conclusion of if it's worth it or not. But so far, I'm not very excited about it. Like when you tell me Mortal Kombat 11 is gonna be part of the service, I mean I can get it for $10 and just keep it in my library. Like, so we'll see, depends on the full library as you mentioned. And I hope you guys watch our latest video. We mentioned a loophole that you can upgrade your PlayStation Now subscription to a PlayStation, what is it called, the Platinum,
The final tier.
yeah, the final tier, the
Premium.
most expensive one. And like a lot of people stocked 4 or 5 years of subscription of those, which gonna convert to what's equivalent to $120, $60 into 120, and multiply that by 5 years. It's a good deal. Unfortunately, this deal became so popular now that I think Sony closed that loop. But congratulations to the people who jumped on that deal. I personally didn't do it because I'm very excited with Game Pass. I still have like 3 years of subscription. I also got it on a great deal. So I don't feel like I have that urge to subscribe to another service and increase my budget for it. But if you own only Sony, that might be a different story. If you play a lot of hours per week, definitely a different story for you. I'm like an adult. I have my life. I don't play a lot of games, a lot of hours anymore. So as you mentioned, like maybe it's a big game, like 30 hours game may take me months to finish. That's why I've been trying now to play smaller games.
Yeah. Two important points that I feel would influence a decision is what the games are available in this service, and also the closest comparison I give is the Disney Plus against Netflix thing. And what I mean by that is anything that's on Disney Plus being owned by Disney, at least they could prove me wrong, but we'll use this one. Nothing leaves every month on Disney Plus. It's theirs. There's no reason for it to leave, so it'll all stay up there and it only gets bigger. Then you have a Netflix or even a Paramount and stuff like that, where you'll find a specific list on Netflix. Here's what's leaving this month. Here's what's leaving this week. So get it before you can. Xbox Game Pass has stuff that leaves every month and stuff that comes in every month, stuff that returns and stuff that, never comes back in some cases. That's all very specific for licensing stuff. What I'm curious about is, what first party negotiations needed to happen. And the best thing that you can probably say is that your first party exclusives, your God of Wars, Ratchet and Clanks, if they're going to be on this service, probably won't be going anywhere. They'll stay. It's the other ones. And so one thing that we can maybe, I say maybe for certain, which is a paradox, but doesn't make much sense. I don't know if there's anything that says EA Play can't also be a part of this while also being a part of Game Pass. I don't know what it says about third parties that are already signed up with Game Pass that have games there. I don't know what it means for indie developers that can sign up with Game Pass and PlayStation Store, because right now the Game Pass is technically your best option. People are going to drop that amount more over a set product that we know works and is available, against a PlayStation 5, which is still testing the waters. And then, like Freddie was saying, is kind of unwilling to dip their toes because they're not putting in that extra mile to keep day one games on there. Not keep them, to get day one games on there. So that's where things are going to get a bit slippery. If you're the kind of person who, even if you don't play them, and I think I speak for a certain amount of people when I get irked by that, where I'm like, I'll go on Game Pass and I see games leaving this month and I go, oh no, I could have played them. Was I going to play them? I don't know.
Story of my life.
Exactly, maybe, but it feels kind of a bummer when you sit there and be like, a game I wanted, I've yet to run into the problem where a game I was playing or a game that I wanted to play is being removed. So far, so good, but you know, the more interest you get, the harder it's going to be. Is PlayStation going to do that? Are we going to see games leave? Will God of War be temporary? Will God of War be permanent? That's going to affect a lot of things too, because people who are very unsure will not stick with the service. Or like he was saying too, on the other end, the best thing about being the blessing and curse that a bargain shopper is that the blessing, you're getting games cheap, you're getting services for cheap. Bad news is when stuff like this drops, you don't get very excited just because you know what's going to happen. And we can already say right off the bat, any of you who have been doing those, what is it, the $45 PlayStation Plus year things that come every holiday, what's it going to be now? Is the premium one going to be $70 or $80? That seems a bit steep, but you know what I mean. People only stockpile things that way. If you buy 4 years worth, then you technically don't have to worry. Which, that's what we advertise more than anything. If you're watching us, odds are you're looking for some way to get a hold of it cheaper. And like Freddie was saying, there's a lot of options. You do not need to drop that $120 for the premium bill. It's just a matter of whether it's something that would interest you in the first place. So take a look at these. We're going to have the graphic up, of course, next to our beautiful faces. And we're going to be kind of keeping an eye on it as we update things. And of course, as we pay attention to the feedback of the video, if more details come out about this, we're more than happy to do an addendum for this video. And that way we can kind of, you know, spruce it up a little bit. If we know what games are on there, classic or otherwise, we'll be the first to let you know. And that way you can see if this thing is worth jumping on when it hits.
Exactly. I totally agree. These are all the points that I wanted to bring up. I don't know, Marky, is there anything else you would like to add?
Real small one, and I'll throw this one out there. Is there any game off this one that you would like to see that you're still unsure about?
I can't think of anything really, because if a game I really like, I'm honestly not gonna wait for the service to be part of the cloud service to play it. I'm gonna just own the game. For example, I'm really interested in Gran Turismo 7, but I'm waiting for the price to be right for it because $70 is still very expensive for it.
Right.
Horizon also the same thing. I'm sure by the holidays it's gonna drop. Maybe I'm gonna see it maybe half the price, $30, $35. Almost this has been the trend, so no need to buy these expensive games. Just wait for them. The rest, like I just use Game Pass, and it's just like the indie games covers me, and I keep exploring a new game that I wouldn't usually consider paying any dollar for it, because I usually go for the AAA titles. But Game Pass allow me to experience a lot of things, and I feel like that's good enough for me.
That's good. I think a part of me, my benefit about all this for a lot of people is I'm a bit on the middle ground when it comes to being a retro collector. There's retro games that I really want to own physically that are nice, and I own the system for it. But then, of course, there's the very, very expensive, hard to find games. PS1 and 2, there's a lot there. Heck, judging to see how these PSP games are going to turn out on a full 4K TV, it might show some age. It might show some age, but hey, you know, I mean, if you have access to them, that's kind of my point. I want access to these games, and I want something on there. And I can't think off the top of my head, but I know there's probably a Shin Megami Tensei game somewhere in that PS2 that's probably $200 to find sealed, or even in a regular case. I just want access to those, the titles that you know built PlayStation up.
The rare ones.
Exactly. That's what I want to find. I want the rarities on there. Hopefully they're going out of the way for that. If it's not, if it's just like your Ratchet and Clanks, your God of Wars, then there's a service there, but then that'll also affect the decision of purchasing. So.
Exactly. Very good point. And we should see what's gonna happen by the summer we're gonna have a better picture. Maybe we'll have another video about it. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys like this format. Let us know in the comment below if we missed anything. What do you think? Are you supportive? Are you excited about this new service, or are you gonna maybe more sticking to Game Pass? Let us know in the comment below. We're really excited to hear from you, and thank you for watching.
Yeah, we'll see you guys real soon.
Thank you.